Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this beautiful Saturday morning. Yes, you're looking at me like, why am I here? Yes, I'm here on Diaspora Weekly because I'm sitting in for Mr. Jermaine. He's currently out the country working on some projects that we would definitely be airing out throughout the year on DNT. So definitely stay tuned for that. So yes, I'm sitting in today and I'm your host Gabby Mack. So as you know, DNT is working on bringing the Ghanaian communities together, and Mr. Jermaine does via video calls with people all around the world. So he started out in the US, which he is actually currently in Houston, Texas, and he talked to a few Ghanaians there in the US, and he also did a video call with a few Ghanaians in France, and today he's going to do a video call with some Ghanaians in China. So before we get into that, I'm going to take a quick break, and when I come back, we'll jump right into it.
Are you expecting money from your relations abroad? Have you ever been defrauded of your money remittance? Open an ADB account today. Send your name and your account number to your relations abroad. Ask them to use MoneyGram direct to account service and receive your money in your account in minutes. With MoneyGram direct to account service, there's no PIN code wahala. You can now access your money on all ATMs in Ghana or send it to any mobile money wallet using ADB mobile banking app or shortcode *767#. Visit our branches nationwide to conveniently receive your Western Union, MoneyGram, RIA, Unitylink, Transfast, and Express Money transfers. Reach us on our Facebook, website, or call our hotline on 0302 210 210 for more information. ADB, truly agri and more.
Welcome back, everyone, to Diaspora Weekly, and I'm your host today, Gabby Mack. I am standing in for Mr. Jermaine, but we are going to hear from Mr. Jermaine today. Yeah, so I said earlier before we went on the break that Mr. Jermaine has been doing video calls, speaking to Ghanaians, all around the world. So he spoke to a few in U.S., he has spoke to a few in France, and today he is speaking to two gentlemen in China. One by the name of Michael Amponsah, and he is the former Secretary General of NUGS China and a member media and publicity team. And he's also going to speak to Omari Asante, who is the PRO of the GCC. So we're going to jump right into their interview.
My name is Jermaine Nkrumah, and you're watching Diaspora Network Television. Today, we're having conversation with two of our friends, our brothers living in China, but from two different cities. I want to first introduce to you Mr. Omari from Nanjing City in Jiangsu Province. Welcome, Mr. Omari. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing very well. And you?
Very good, thank you. And next, I want to introduce you to Michael Amponsah, who's speaking to us from Haikou City in Henan Province, also in China. Welcome, Mr. Amponsah.
Thank you, sir.
Very good. I've dealt with diasporans all the time, but this is the first time I'm actually speaking with two of you from mainland China. Tell us about yourself, how you got there. Let's start with you, Mr. Amponsah. How did you end up so far away in China?
All right. Thank you very much. As you rightly said, I'm in Hainan Province, Haikou City, as of now, and it's all about education. I left my homeland to seek educational prowess here in China, and so studies actually gave me up here on this province in Hainan. I've been here for the past 6 years, and it has been school. And so that's how come I got here.
Very good. And in Ghana, where did you live, or what part of Ghana are you from?
Well, in Ghana, I lived in Brongahafo region. I actually worked with St. Mary's Hospital in German South Drobo, to be precise. And I lived in Techiman a while, was born and bred in Ahafo, Fidim, the newly created region.
Okay, very good. Now, Mr. Omari, how did you
Yes,
find
sir.
yourself in? I'm having difficulty pronouncing the cities, but how did you find yourself in
In
Nanjing
Nanjing,
City, in Jiangsu province?
problem. Okay, so I think I've also been here about the same time. My name is Omari, and now most people know me by my nickname, Mr. CEO. I'm
You said they know
currently
you by what?
studying to Mr. CEO. That's how people know me in China. Very few people know my name in China.
Oh,
Everybody
Mr.
knows me by
CEO. I like that.
yes, sir. Um, I China to learn two things: be in school and learn about the Chinese system because I had read about China. They were as poor as us before, and in just about 40 years, they have become one of the superpowers in the world. So when the time came for me to decide where to go, I wanted to go to where uh, their stories were similar to where I was coming from. And
Very
I
good.
find myself, to me, I feel have come to China at time because they are still building, and each new day you see something new happening, and then learn from them. So
Very good.
that's my main motivation for choosing China as a destination. I wanted to be somewhere that was close to where I was coming from,
Okay.
and they've been able to come out of what we are trying to come out
Very good. And what part of Ghana were you from or did you live before you traveled?
from. I was born in Nkoko in the eastern region, Ko in Nkoko,
Okay.
and
Okay.
I came to live in Accra for some time, tertiary education. And after I graduated, I went back to Nkoko, and from I came to China. So anytime I get back to Ghana, I go to Nkoko first.
Very good. Very good. And what's your current status with regards to the Ghanaian community in China?
Currently, I'm the national PRO, the National Public Relations Officer for the Ghanaian community in China, which is we changed the name recently to Ghanaian Association in China. I'm the national PRO.
The national PRO. Okay. And what about you, Mr. Amponsah?
Yeah, I'm currently a member of the Media and Publicity Committee for National Union of Gardens here in China.
National Union of Ghana Students.
Ghana students. Yes, please. No
Okay, so
China.
you have a branch of NOTS. You have a branch of NOTS in
Yes,
China, right?
exactly.
Okay. Are
That's
you
right.
are, are you affiliated with NOTS Ghana?
Yes, please. We are.
Okay. That's very interesting because over here in the United States, we don't hear much about National Union of Ghana Students USA. So, how did you guys
Hmm.
form that affiliation with Ghana? And what was the need for it?
Well, it all started some 30 years ago, back in 1988, when a group of students who had come to this country to pursue various academic programs saw the need to come together to sort of have an embodiment, a structure that they could pursue various agendas that they had at that time. Because, as you rightly said, living outside your home country is more of difficult, for lack of a better word. And so, as students, they thought about a way to come together, an umbrella that could speak one voice in terms of their needs. Whenever there was a situation, they could have a clarity on a unified sort of structure that could pursue whatever they were. So that is how come China started. And as I speak to you, out of the 23 provinces in China, China has inaugurated various chapters in different cities over the years. It is a well-structured body that meets annually, has its annual delegates congress almost every year. And quite recently, we were in Nanjing. And so looking at the student population, it is only proper. As at now, we have about 6,500 Ghanaian students in China. And so it is only proper that we would have a unified sort of structure that would deal with issues pertaining to student welfare, academic issues, and what have you.
Very good. And so how many chapters of NUG do you have in China? I know you said you have 23 provinces. I don't presume you have 23 chapters. How many do you have?
As of now, we have 20 inaugurated chapters. 20 inaugurated chapters that spreads across the length and breadth of the country.
And are they by city or by province?
Basically, constitutionally, they are by city. You know, some of the provinces, the geographical area is so large in the sense that you might have 2 or more chapters in a province. Yes. Okay. But looking at representation wise, you can see that a lot of students have been captured based on their location, because our membership is said that once you are a Ghanaian, you gain admission into any recognized or reputable Chinese institution, you are automatically a member of NUX China if you decide to register with a local chapter. And so our membership even stretches across countries in Asia. For example, if you are in the Philippines, if you are in Singapore, you are in Japan, and you are a Ghanaian student, you can be an affiliate member of NUX China by way of registration. Because most of these countries do not have an organized structure for the student front for Ghanaians. Also, if you have completed, for example, you come for study, you graduate, you go back to Ghana or to any other country, but you still want to be part of the union, you can still be an affiliate member of the union. And so based on that, there are Ghanaian students who graduated but are still in China, probably working or doing one or two things. If you still decide that upon graduation, you still want to be part of the union, constitutionally, you can register and be an affiliate member. And so that is the embodiment of the union.
Very good. That looks like a pretty impressive structure. And so, Mr. Omari, sure. What about your structure, the structure that you speak for, the organization that you speak for?
Okay, the Ghanaian community in China is the biggest umbrella of all unions in China. It's relatively younger compared to NUX China, but it's by as a result of the, let me say, unstructured systems that we were running. So you go to most provinces and most cities they had their own unions one way or the other. Some people come together. We have an application here, a chat application called WeChat, which is very, very popular. It allows people to create. So most Ghanaians were getting together in such groups, smaller groups, but they were not recognized groups. So working with the embassy, the High Commission of Ghana here, we decided to put together these bodies or individuals to form a recognized and a well organized association. And is is a member, or let me say a constituent in Ghanaian community in China. Every other association in China that you hear of is by virtue of the powers vested in the Ghanaian Community Association and the recognition given it by the High Commission becomes an automatic constituency or subgroup of Ghanaian community in China. And what we
Okay.
do is represent the people and the High Commission in places where both entities cannot be fully represented.
Okay, so if I'm hearing you correctly, when you say umbrella, you have, I guess I'm sure when Ghanaians get together, they would like to form their Ewe Association, Fanti Association, Ashanti Association. Are these all part of your the groups that come under the Ghanaian Association in China?
Every Ghanaian who is in China being part of an association or being not being part of an association is an member of the Ghanaian Community Association. Is the only recognized institution or body of organization for Ghanaian Community Association. And like because China is big and there are diverse groups, we recognize each other individual association as a subgroup of the Ghanaian Community Association in China.
Okay, so if I live in Beijing, for example, and I'm not a part of any subgroup, can I still walk up to Ghana Association in China and be a registered member?
Yes, please, you can. Just like the structure of nukes, every province
Uh-huh.
and most cities, we have inaugurated Ghanaian Community Association in most cities, not all cities. What we usually do is, for instance, in Jiangsu province, Nanjing is the
Mhm.
most active Ghanaian community. We have the most active community in Nanjing because there are more universities and there are more people. Nanjing's government system is more flexible, so people love to. There are more people living there with their families and working there, and there are students there. But if you look at the whole China, Zhejiang
Mhm.
has the largest population of students, but it doesn't have a
Okay.
local chapter of Ghanaian Community Association because it is a smaller city compared to Nanjing. So we consider all the other areas around Nanjing to be part of Nanjing Ghanaian Community Association. That's how it works. So if you go to Beijing, we have the Ghanaian Community Association in Beijing. If you go to Shenzhen,
Uh-huh.
we have the local chapter there. If you go to Guangzhou, we
Okay.
have the local chapter. Go to Wenzhou,
Okay.
almost all the major cities in Shanghai, we have the local chapters of the Ghanaian Community Association. That's how
Okay.
it's
And then
structured.
all of you,
So anybody can be a
all
member.
those associations, all those association in the different cities are networked under the umbrella organization that you're talking about.
Yes, and spearheaded by the National Executive Committee, which is
Okay, very good.
currently uh,
Uh-huh.
hosted by Nanjing local chapter.
Okay, so your leadership rotate from city to city, right?
Yes, please. Yes.
Okay, very good. What about the political parties? In Ghana, we know two main ones, NPP, NDC. Are they active in China?
Politics is one of the areas we don't really discuss around here. But yeah, there are chapters. We have the MPP chapter and we have the NDC chapter. I haven't heard much of the other political parties, but I know there was a chapter. And these people, like, they have their own structures.
Okay. But their structure, they are not an integral part of the Ghanaian community structure, right?
No, the Ghanaian community is not built along political party lines. It's built for Ghanaians. Okay. So anybody, regardless of your political background or affiliation.
Okay. Very good. Michael, when it comes to NUGs, right? I presume that when many Ghanaians go to China, for education, are they mostly going on their own, or are they going on some kind of scholarship?
Oh, thank you very much. In China, most students that pursue educational prowess here come by their own, mostly self-supporting. However, there are few government of Ghana scholarship students and a few who are also on Chinese government scholarship. But majority of students from Ghana are self-supporting.
Okay. And they basically went there on their own. So if I'm in Ghana right now, I want to go to school in China, how do I go about it?
Well, if you are in Ghana, want to study in China, there are several ways. You know, the Chinese operate this agent system. Most of these universities have agents and sub-agents that, so to speak, publicize the universities online, and some form integral part of these institutions. And so there are some accredited agents that most of the schools get. However, if you already know a friend, a family member who is in China, this person equally help you in probably, application, by way of application to get admission. The challenges that these universities have a website that you may log on to, but probably it might be the Chinese language. And so you have a challenge trying and understand. However, some of these universities have their websites in English language, quite flexible. You can apply online, or you can come through a family or a friend, or through the agencies of these universities. So basically, these are the three main ways by which one can gain admission here.
Okay, so once you are there, how do you pay for your tuition and your board with your cost of living? How do you pay that?
Well, basically, students on self-support have their rent from home, probably from parents or from them home. But a chunk majority of friends also do their means to support what comes from home. Basically, if, for example, you are supposed to renew your visa in September, and you've waited against your fees are not forthcoming, then you should know less on the way, because it is your fees that will give you that sort of, so to speak, to gain visa. The university gave you invitation to come and study. And so it is the university that should give you documents for you to process for your next visa with the immigration. And so it's challenging sometimes. Some students do part-time jobs, which of course are illegal. But these are some of the ways most students actually, cater for their education.
Wow, that was very, very, very interesting to listen to, people in China that are from Ghana. A lot of people have left, Ghana to go live in so many places. And it's nice to hear back from them, to see what's going on. And, it's nice listening to this interview, listening to Mr. Amponsah and Mr. Asante. I think there's a lot that we can learn from these two. So we're going to listen to them more. So I'm going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll just jump right back into the interview again.
Lock on Hello Entertainment Box.
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 Every weekday at 12 and 5 p.m., DNT Newsroom brings you the most topical, fact-based, and up-to-date news from Ghana and around the world.
Politics, business, sports, and news from the diaspora, all covered in this comprehensive news update.
If it matters, DNT Newsroom will have it covered.
DNT News. Be informed.
Welcome back, guys, to Diaspora Weekly. I'm your host today, Gabby Mack, and yes, I'm sitting in for Mr. Jermaine. So you guys are just tuning in. We have been watching an interview that Mr. Jermaine had via video call with a few Ghanaians that are in China currently. As you know, DNT is trying to bridge in the gap with Ghanaians that are all around the world. So without wasting time, we're going to jump right back into the interview again.
Okay. All right, very good. Let me get back to you, Mr. Omari. What's the relation like between the Ghanaian community and the locals?
I would say it's very cordial. The Chinese are not violent people. They are okay. There's this thing with the Chinese. They are warm if you are a friend. If you are not, avoid you. The culture we have back home, that when you see a stranger or when you see anybody in need, you have to give a hand or helping hand. They don't have that. And that is not specific to any kind of person. It is just their culture. But if you know them, if they get to know you, they are very nice people. They are very warm and very friendly. That's how they
Okay,
are.
so
They are not trained to help
these
strangers.
videos. Okay, we saw some videos where some Chinese were beating up on an African boy. They say he went and dated a Chinese woman and they were angry about it. Is that a problem with you guys dating Chinese women?
Okay, it wouldn't really be a problem for me because I am married. I don't know about my brother, but I know lots of I know lots of our African brothers who are married to Chinese. My very good friend and brother is married to a Chinese. The chairman of the Ghanaian Community Association in China is married to a Chinese with two beautiful kids, and he is one of the people who have citizenship here in China. Those videos,
Okay,
I
so
wouldn't say don't exist. There are places.
okay, so
There are
those
places
videos
where
are not the norm. They are not the
no,
norm. Is
no,
that
no,
what you're
no,
saying? That
no.
the Chinese
Yes,
don't have problem with foreigners dating their women, right?
no. That's what I'm saying. There are
Okay.
some places that I have heard, especially with very, 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 very low population of blacks, or let me say foreigners. They are not very well to, especially black people, or let me say Africans dating their women. They have this stereotype, or let me say low thing they see be from Africa. And that is one of the
Okay.
major problems you face if you have to deal with the systems here. Once they find out you are from Africa, they treat you differently. That's one of the problems
How
or the
differently?
challenges you face.
How differently?
Um, so even amongst the Chinese, they are a bit discriminating when it comes to skin color. So most Chinese ladies, especially, bleach their skins just like our sisters. Some of our sisters, they believe if you are light skinned or if you are white, you are beautiful. And they also attach intelligence and personality, let me say character, to skin color. So here, there is a much general perception that Africans are poor, we are sick, we are bad, and we are criminals. Let's say if you are white and I am black, and I have higher qualification than you, and we are for the same opportunity, you stand a better chance than me. The mere fact that you are, but with the
Okay.
videos of them
That's
attacking attacking people, it's real. Some of them are from bars. Some of them they go out to the nightclub, they get drunk, and then there might be some exchange of words, and then it gets to that. But I have been here for 7 years now, and I can count the number of such cases I've heard of.
okay. All right. So I mean that's pretty normal. But there's something you said. You're saying that the Chinese, they too have variety of skin tonation, and those with darker tonation, they believe they have to bleach their skin just like our women do in Africa in order to be perceived beautiful. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, yeah,
Wow. Okay. I
yeah.
never knew there were
Most
light
of their
skinned Chinese and darker skinned Chinese.
there are
Okay.
there are darker skinned Chinese and lighter skinned ones.
Okay, very good. I know, Amponsah, you mentioned that there are about over 6,000 students across China. But
Yeah.
Mr. Omari, tell us this: how do how would you put a figure to the number of Ghanaians in China? Oh, I know that's probably going to be a hard task for you, but within your city or
Yeah.
the other major cities that you know, give us an estimate of how many Ghanaians do you think are in China?
Within my city, let me say uh, in Zhenjiang, there are two major universities. Zhenjiang is not actually it's not a city where people really come here to work. And most of us, most people you see in Zhenjiang are here because of school. There are two major universities here, and they have a population of about 600 here in Zhenjiang alone.
Okay,
In Nanjing, it's about 3 to 400. That's the students' population, and the others working within Nanjing, that is those who are registered with the Ghanaian community. We have about 250 registered members. It will be very
okay,
difficult to put a figure on the whole of China because currently we are undergoing a membership registration drive, and we have allocated that duty to each chapter, local chapter, to do that
okay,
for us. The problem is
okay. But you have
our
an
people,
idea
very few.
which, but you have an idea which city in China has the most the largest Ghanaian population, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That,
Okay,
and that city would be
I would
what?
say, I would say Nanjing together with Zhenjiang. Uh, uh, it might seem that Guangzhou would have a larger population, but most of the people who come in to Guangzhou are coming in for business. So they are like going forth, but they also have a large population in Guangzhou and Shenzhen. But if you are talking of a place where there are people living more, I would say Jiangsu has the largest population.
Oh, really? Amponsah, would you agree to that?
Well, I would come in with the indices from the student population that we have. If you look at a city as Guangzhou, as he rightly put it, you know, mostly businessmen come to Guangzhou. They spend maybe 3 days, 1 week, 2 weeks business work to their various places. And so at a point, at a particular time, you might have a lot of Ghanaians in Guangzhou City. But we're trying to put a number on Ghanaians who stay within China. I think on the student will be looking at Chengdu or probably Shenyang. Then again, there is during each academic year, you know, when students graduate, most of them flee back home. And so at a point, you might have a larger population activity. But then the following year, they might be overtaken a different city. I give you a classical example in the case of Shenyang. Shenyang city had the largest number of student population 2 years back. Last we were overtaken by Zhangjiakou. But this year, as it stands now, probably it should be changed also in southern China. And so those are some of the parameters that comes in. Then again, let me put on record that there might be people who are on student visas, but they might probably not be studying in a recognized university. Please, do you get this point? And so, for example, if I get a student visa from Ghana, I enter China and my course change. I try to find my way out by way of something else, doing a job or probably doing something else. The records will indicate from the Chinese embassy back in Ghana that a student has entered China, but per the terms of our records and the constitution, the framework of NUCS China, once you haven't registered with a local chapter, then again you fall outside our scope.
Okay, if you take 100 people, 100 Ghanaians in China, and this question goes to Omari. If you take 100 Ghanaians in China, how many of them are working and how many of them are full-time students?
Full-time students might be, if I'm not too wrong, might be about 60 to 80. Legally recognized workers might be about 10. And finding their way might be about. But if you're looking from the Chinese situation, the story we have here on the ground, almost all of these people might be working.
Okay. So now my question is this. In Africa, one of the problems that most African governments have is that when the Chinese get a contract, they would like to bring their people to come and do the work in Africa. That tells me that they have more people than work available. So how is it possible that Africans live here and are still able to find work in China? Any of you can take that.
Okay. So the job usually for foreigners is English teaching. That is why they will still have some hands to take them out to go and work. Most of the job here for foreigners is English teaching. There are a few foreigners who are working in expert field, and they have some reputable foreign companies here who come in with foreigners to work. But the country has a system. They have a policy. If you set up a business here or if you company here, your foreign nationals you are bringing are supposed to be experts who are going to take, let's say, top positions. But low level jobs they don't give to foreigners. It's for Chinese.
Okay. Okay.
Low level jobs are for Chinese. And
that makes sense.
Even with the teaching, before, let me say 5 years ago, if you had a regular diploma, they would employ you, but they have changed the system. Now you are required to have a teacher's license and a minimum of a bachelor's degree. There is no competition for job between the locals and the foreigners. It's clearly set out. It's not like back home where some of them even come in to compete with us for jobs. It's set out. You won't find any foreign as a storekeeper. No, those kind of regular jobs you won't find any foreigner getting it. They are all for China.
What about trading? I'm sure wherever Ghanaians are, they would like to sell their plantain and gari and stuff. Do you have Ghanaian shops there?
Oh yeah.
Amponsah, take it.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
We have.
Sure.
We have.
There are a lot, and as Mr. Omari put it earlier, the widely used social networking here in China is the WeChat. And so there are a lot of publicity by way of online and by the Ghanaian product. Sometimes you would want to enjoy the fragrance of our local meals back home. And these people will help you. And the postage system here in China, it's also on point. So regardless of where you are, once you buy, for example, a neat fufu or a gari or a bee, you are sure that it will get to your address, your exact location in due course for you to. And so mostly they are online trading on WeChat. Yes. And there are some who also have shops in various cities like Iwu, like Guangzhou, where a larger population of Africans, come in to, do business. And so, yes, there are shops and there are online trading enterprises that sells goods and products to Ghanaians and, for that matter, Africans in China.
Okay, let me shift the conversation to ROPA. Are you guys familiar with ROPA?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, Omari, you're familiar with Representation of the People Amendments Act, right? Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. How would if the Electoral Commission decides to implement this, how do you see that implementation proceeding in the Ghanaian communities in China?
It will be very easy.
How would you? Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. The EC has a policy that, at least as applicable in Ghana, there shouldn't be any polling station that has more than 500 people. So based on your knowledge of the Ghanaian community in China, how many polling centers would you say would adequately cover the Ghanaian community?
Looking at the chapters we have at the moment, I can say we could get about 8 to 10 active polling stations.
Throughout China, right?
Yes.
Wouldn't travel to, that means some people would have to travel far to vote, right? Okay,
let's say if we are putting a polling station in Zhenjiang, it will strategically right place or the best place to put it would be in Jiangsu University because that is where most Ghanaians would live. It would depend on uh, the EC's, let me say, uh, roadmap to implementing it. If you go to Nanjing, for instance, there is a particular place that is easily accessible to almost all universities around, and there's one particular university. If you put a polling station there, you might likely have a low turnout because it's far out of the city. So it will depend on where they will decide to put these centers. I can honestly talk about other places that I haven't been, but I'm using these two places that I've spent most of my years here as an example.
But you think the different chapters, the Ghanaian Community Association, they are neutral enough to be able to supervise such an election, right?
The leadership, I can say,
Yes.
the reason is there's neutral. Uh, is actually supposed to be neutral. That's how the structure is. It is non-political. It has no it owes no allegiance to anybody or party or affiliation. Our only allegiance is to Ghanaians. So yes,
Guys, I have to tell you, this is very interesting listening to what's going on in China with our, Ghanaians that have moved over there. We're hearing, so many people are going there for studies and then, they end up staying longer to work and how, the job system, they won't allow, foreigners to do the local jobs. It's really interesting because you can see that there's a structure there that they're definitely following that is not the same here. So I'm happy to hear that Ghanaians are having the opportunity to travel out and learn things, and we hope that they come back. That's the most important thing, to come back home and at least show us what you've learned, and let's use it to also boost our economy. So very, very interesting. We're gonna hear a little bit more, so I'm gonna take a quick break. When we come back, then we'll finish off with the interview.
Hello, my name is Kofi Opon Ochre, and I bring you NASA on DNT, a program designed to expose corruption and indiscipline in our society and advocate for the punishment of these offenders whose activities impede national development. The National Road Safety Commission indicates that Ghana loses $230 million to road accident, with over 1,600 deaths recorded every year. In 2018, Shraj report indicated that Ghana loses 13.5 billion Ghana cedis to corruption. And United Nations Children's Fund UNICEF has also stated that Ghana loses $290 million to poor sanitation alone. This is not right. So make a date with me, and together let's name and shame the offenders of the law. NASA, see something, say something.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm your host, Gabby Mack, today for Diaspora Weekly. So those who are just tuning in, we are currently watching an interview that Mr. Jermaine had with a few Ghanaians that are in China. So without wasting much time, we're going to jump right back into the interview.
Now, let me talk to you. Let me stay with you, Mr. Omari. I think you said you traveled to China to study the systems, and based on what you're seeing, what are you seeing that they're doing differently from Ghana, and what should we do from a paradigm standpoint to be able to accelerate our development the same way that they did?
okay. So if you go to the genesis of the People's Republic of China, they used to be a Republic of China, and they went through a revolution, and they established the People's Republic of China in 1949. Now, when they established the People's Republic of China, they did that on the Communist Party of China, and they set laws. So when they assumed office, everybody automatically became a member of the the Communist Party of China. But what people don't know is they have a low-level electoral system where people get to elect people who represent. And people don't also know that in the Chinese parliament, they have a multi-party system here. Actually, position representatives in parliament. But what they do here is
wait. Are you telling me? Are you telling me the Chinese have a multi-party system in China?
Yes, yes, they do have a multi-party system, and that is one
And they
thing
are
most
all
people don't
communist
know.
in nature. Are they all communist in nature, or some of them are capitalists?
Isn't Even if you look at what China is doing, they call it the Chinese. They call it socialism with Chinese characteristics. And people outside who don't understand what they are doing define it as communism. China is more of a social capitalist state, because if you don't come to China, you wouldn't know that most of the bigger companies are privately owned. Most of the companies, and the government builds incubators in most cities. Every city in China has this huge structure, and they call them incubators, and they have young entrepreneurs setting up their offices at cheaper rates. Like it's almost you pay nothing to run a business in those government facilities. So what the government is doing right is, like my brother mentioned earlier, they have a decentralized system. So each each province each province has its local government, and they have the right to make their own laws. Now, what they do is they have every 5 years they have this let's say their Congress, that all the leaders across the country meet in Beijing. And when during that time, every leader is supposed to account for what he has done for the last 5 years. And for the next 5 years, that leader is supposed to present a plan. So let's say if it was Ghana, every regional minister or every district executive is supposed to present a 5-year plan on what he intends to achieve it, and the logistics involved or required to achieve that. Now, what the president of China does is after going through all this, he only signs these documents, and these leaders are expected to deliver. You don't have it because you are given what you need. So at the end of the 5 years, you account. If you are not able to deliver, you know your punishment. Nobody comes to beg for you or bring all those who forgive him.
And what punishment is that?
You know.
And what punishment
it depends.
will that be?
If you are found to be corrupt, you'll be imprisoned. You'll be jailed.
Okay.
Irrespective of who you are, your influence, your pedigree. Once you are found to have to have deceived and cheated the people of China, you will be punished.
How do you guys normally send money home?
Some people send money to the regular money and Western Union. Others also have, the China we have China pay cards, like we have Visa cards and Mastercard. The Union Pay cards can be used in Ghana. So some people send their families the Union Pay cards, and they deposit on the card, so they don't have to transfer the money. So their family can just make withdrawals from the bank from an ATM in Ghana.
Okay, and what's the name of that card?
It's Union Pay.
Union Pay.
Union Pay. Okay. Would you say that's the main method by which Ghanaians in China remit money home?
In the recent past, we've seen a lot of swapping groups. When we say swapping groups, for example, there will be a WeChat group of about 100, 200 Ghanaians, and just the purpose is just to swap money. So, for example, I want to take a Ghana. I will just post it in this group. If you would have the equivalent, we would just the equivalent in Ghana. If you want to pay it in Ghana cedis into my account, then I will pay the 10,000 RMB to you here in China. That is the most common now, because there were few businessmen who were helping with the transfers, as Mr. Omari rightly said. Western Union and MoneyGram is not so common to the African community. And I presume you know why. Is the issue of visa. A lot of us, a lot of Ghanaians and Africans for that matter, are living on expired visas. And you cannot enter a bank confidently with your passport that has an expired visa that you're going to transfer money outside China. No one does that. And so the most convenient way is to swap. For swapping, you don't need any passport, you don't need any visa. You just pay the money to the person, and the person pays it in the equivalent Ghana cedis back home. And so that is pretty common here.
Okay. The last thing I want to talk about is the second generation Ghanaian. You are married, you have children in China, right? What do you say is, I can say, like, in comparison to United States, there are second and third generation Ghanaians. What do you say about China in terms of generation? Are they third generation Ghanaians yet, or just a younger second generation?
For now, I would say a younger second generation in China. Because, for instance, the few people I know who have kids who are very old here would be in their early teens. That's just a few of them in their early teens.
So there's no such thing. There's no such thing as a 25-year-old second generation Ghanaian in China.
There could be in places like Guangzhou. There could be, for instance, those who started nukes way back in the 80s. Some of them are still here and having families with the Chinese. So their kids might be around that, but it's not that many.
Okay. Finally, parties, celebrations, funerals. Amponsah, how frequently do you guys have those? Because when Ghanaians get together, we have to dance. We have to dance.
Definitely, sure, we do have. But let me begin with funerals. You know, a lot of Ghanaians that die here probably do not have the means, the families do not have the means to be transported back home because of one cost and processes and what have you. And so I think Mr. Omari will talk about that. The Ghanaian community has been at the forefront of trying to represent families, the need for body to be preserved or burnt and ashes taken back home. It's being done in that way. But you know, the Chinese don't take so much solace or don't enjoy, for lack of a better word, funerals so much. And so, yes, mourn, but in a sort of structured or organized way, not so much as we have in our cultural parlance back home. With parties, definitely, I know end of year parties across various cities, even in NUCS, National Union of Ghana Students, when we have our annual meeting every year, annual congress, where representatives from almost all cities come to this congress. Definitely, there are some of these. There are sometimes there are ponche parties, and there are subgroups. Apart from Ghana community, apart from Nooks, there might be, certain tribes or certain people of a particular identification. It could be church, it could be a group who are Ghanaians. They might belong to a mother union like Nooks or like Ghana community, but they can as well come together to have some sort of fun and, share our culture to China and to the rest of the world. Because when Ghana, for example, organize a party, you would see a lot of Africans from different countries coming to enjoy our meals. Our fufu reigns here in China, our bangkun, and what have you. And so that is by way of transferring culture that we have in Ghana here in China as well.
What about Omari? What about other social events like weddings and marriages and stuff?
Yeah, we do have it. I got married here in China, and I had a naming ceremony first time in China.
Well, that was traditional, right?
Yeah, I had a traditional let me say wedding, what we call engagement back home. I'm not married to a Chinese. I'm married to an African American, and we had we had a Ghanaian style of marriage, and then we had a Western style of marriage, coupled with a dinner.
So you are Ghanaian, and you're married to an African American in China.
Yeah.
Okay. What about churches?
No, it's churches. Okay, it depends. There are some cities where they have churches. There are some cities where they don't allow churches, but it is not allowed for churchly allowed. Usually, they come in groups of they like fellowships, and they find a place to meet. In Shanghai, for instance, they have what they call underground churches. Authorities find people meeting in these underground churches, they arrest them. Unless such meetings are recognized. Like if you want to meet as a fellowship or something, you need permission. In China, if more than 10 people are to meet at a place for any event, they need permission from authorities, whichever the authority may be. Like just on 4th January, for instance, Indian community in my society, in my city here, we had end of year dinner and awards for Nooks Genjian. And we were looking at over 100 people. Before we can do that, we need to write to the school authorities. Even though we are not in the school, we have to school authorities that we are hosting more than 10 people at a place for them to be aware that we are having such a gathering. If we didn't do that, we went ahead to have the party, and there was any issue, everybody who was there would be in trouble, especially the people who put that event together. So usually, you need to seek permission from authorities. Usually,
okay, Amponsah,
but it's not really very
is it the
strict on
same
that.
in your province? Mr. Amponsah, is it the same in your province?
Our province is a little bit different. Churches are around. In my city, there are about 3 to 4 churches in my city. I attend the High Court International Christian Fellowship. Yes, it is registered, and there are government representatives that even fellowship with us. we have the Hainan Christian Council that, takes stock of membership of the church. It's more or less regulated, but there are churches. We don't meet underground, and there are crusades sometimes, evangelism programs. It depends, as because of the decentralization drive, each and every province and even cities do have calls to regulate religion by way of however they would want to do it.
Oh, okay, good, good. All right, we'd like to wrap it up. I'd like to thank you guys for making time. I know this one has been challenging, but let me give you guys a minute or two each, starting with Omari, to tell us something you want Ghanaians in Ghana to know about the Ghanaian community that we have not covered.
All right. So what I would say is, far from the perception that if you come to China, the only job you can do is to teach. There are successful businesses, there are successful entrepreneurs here, there are companies, business consults, of which I'm a co-founder of one price group consult in China.
Well, I will say that as students in China, one of the Herculean tasks that we had once upon a time was our welfare. And so in 2008, September 3rd, when His Excellency, the President, had a state visit to China, leadership of NUCS China had the opportunity to meet the President. And our request was that we needed sort of an insurance, a welfare for students, because when you are sick here, it becomes a problem. Because even though we are on insurance before we are given visa as students, most of these insurance from the universities have their limit, they have their cutoff point. Also, they would need the student to pay money before the insurance sort of remit after us. And so there was the need for a seed money, and the president pledged 50,000 RMB. And within some few months, the money has been received. The president has redeemed the pledge. And now, as I speak to you, we have a seed fund for the welfare.
Thank you so much. I would like to thank you, Mr. Michael Amponsah, speaking to us from Haikou City in Henan Province, China, and Mr. Omari.
Yes, guys, we just finished wrapping up watching the interview that Mr. Jermaine had with the representatives in China, which is Mr. Michael Amponsah. We thank you very much for your time, and also Mr. Omari Asante for acknowledging, like, telling us what's really going on in China. It's very, very interesting to hear. There's like over 2,000 Ghanaians now that are living in China, and a lot of them are going, for studies, others, to seek, better opportunities. But what we hear a lot is people leave from here to go back, to China to actually teach. And, a lot of things have changed now with the law now, requiring teachers to actually have certificates from down here in order to work over there, which I feel like it's a good thing. And it's great that there's actually job opportunities out there, because you hear that people travel out and there's struggle to find like professional jobs. So it's great that China has created that opportunity, and I know we're working together a lot with China now, Ghana, our industry and everything. And it's just nice to see that things are actually like working. It's nice to see that there's a community over there, and they have board members, executives, and they're joined together. So I think that's great to hear that there's so many good things that are happening in China, and people are coming back, and definitely that's most importantly. Of course, we're going to continue to do more of these interviews. Mr. Jermaine will continue to do more of these vlogs, videos with people, representatives from everywhere. So I mean, if you're watching this and you're living somewhere in Europe and you would love to join and talk with us, please definitely contact us at DNT so we can definitely interview and hear what's going on with the Ghanaians in your community. So I had a great time, guys. Maybe you might see me another time. But definitely, I enjoyed my time. I was your host, Gabby Mack. Make sure you follow our social medias. We have Twitter, we have Instagram, we have Facebook. Make sure you tune in. We have YouTube. You can definitely catch these episodes if you have missed any of them. I had a great time, and I hope you guys have a lovely, lovely, lovely weekend. And I'll see you guys again. And this was Diaspora Weekly, only on D.